A word you said there piqued my interest, which is the word independent media.
Yes.
I am independent media.
Bless you.
And I'm in a group of my peers, like the big podcasters in the world, like Joe Rogan, etc., and Alex Cooper, I know whose show you went on as part of your campaign. The media landscape is changing before our eyes.
Rapidly.
You're sat in a set now, you're the Madam Vice President, you're sat in effectively my kitchen, my old kitchen where they started, you know? And that's crazy. Like 20 years ago, the thought that you'd come to my kitchen is such a crazy thing. But it's in part now because of the democratization of these platforms and creating the content is much cheaper. And we have distribution now across these big platforms. Many would say that it changed the course of the election, podcasting. Not just the podcast you did or didn't go on, but just the conversations that take place on these podcasts. And as I have to say, you know, as podcasters, we don't have the same rigor as traditional journalists, who I respect a lot. We don't have the same teams and real-time fact, all those kinds of things. Podcasting, there was lots of conversation around you going on Joe Rogan's show or not going on Joe Rogan's show. Which I write about. What is the truth there for anyone that hasn't yet read the book? Because Trump did like 100 million views on Joe Rogan's show. And in 3 hours sat there getting to know Trump. And for better or for worse, you probably walked away from that conversation feeling like you knew who he was.
I wanted to do Joe Rogan's show. And there was a lot of games being played. But I wanted to do Joe Rogan's show. I think podcasting is a very powerful medium for people to get information. And to your point, a lot of people, that is a main source of information. And it's important for us to support that.
Joe says you want him to come to you, which is very un-Joe-like in terms of he doesn't really travel. In hindsight, do you wish you'd gone and done the show for 3 hours at his studio, in hindsight?
Really, it just would be what were we giving up? I wanted to do his show, and a lot of people advised me not to do his show because they assumed, as it turned out to be correct, that he was supporting Trump and that it would not be a productive piece for me. But just like when I went on Fox News with Bret Baier, my perspective was they may have their bias, but there are people that listen who are open-minded, and I'm going to go there and give them a chance to get to know me and give me a chance to make my case to them. So that was my perspective on Joe Rogan, just like it was my perspective on Fox. There was a lot of games being played around the scheduling, and it didn't happen. And, you know, I don't have anything against, certainly not against the people who turn on to Joe Rogan and would love to be able to talk with him in a direct manner, as I wanted to during the campaign.
Do you, in hindsight, wish you'd just put your foot down and said, I'm going to go do it?
I don't know if it would have made a difference. But yeah, no, I wanted to do it. So let me just say that, right? So I wanted to do it, and it would have been great to do, and I think it would have been helpful to do.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's just, I mean, the issue, it was really about what's the trade-off in terms of votes and where I spend my time. Do I spend my time traveling for 5 hours and back versus being for that period of time in a swing state? And that was the trade-off.
I guess it goes to the point.
So it wasn't about I don't want to do Joe Rogan, or believe me, at that point in a campaign, it's not about, oh, is somebody coming to me or me going to them? I could care less about that. Pride is not associated with it.
It is more about.
It is literally about return on investment.
Okay, and this goes to our point about efficiency earlier.
Yeah, exactly right. There's only one candidate. So where am I spending my time to get the greatest return on the investment?
If I was in charge of your campaign, I would have 100% put you in that environment. And even when I look at the trade-off, in part because someone like me, and I consider myself to be like genuinely really objective. Yeah. And my friends know me as being extreme, not just objective on camera, but objective in my personal life. Yeah. I would have, when you see a certain environment present someone in a certain way, you really, like the thing that can burst that bubble is seeing that person go into that environment. And like when I saw you on Fox News, I watched that interview as well. Yeah. I actually think it strengthens your supporters, and actually those independents who are in that space too can get a feel for you. So I would have loved to see it. And I actually think, I hope in this next election cycle, when is it, 2028? I really would love to see both sides going to both sides. And I actually think that's happening now, going into those environments. I do also tend to think that Joe would have been fair.
Well, that's why I wanted to do it. I had to assume that that was possible. And either way, he's very popular.
I would have loved to watch that interaction.
I regret that we didn't do it. I definitely regret that we didn't do it. And listen, I have been doing my work long enough that for me, I've never had the luxury of saying, I don't want to go into uncomfortable situations. You would need to have a different profession.
PR people can sometimes fuck things up for other people, I think. I think in the new world, there's this new requirement to be more like a glass box and less like a black box. I think in 20 years ago, the whole strategy of businesses and brands and CEOs, executives, was to basically be black boxes where the PR team paints the perception on the outside. And in this digital world where it's like the media and platforms are distributed and all of my employees here have cameras on them at all times. The defense is like transparency, because I'm not going to let you craft my narrative. You're going to see it.
That's why I wrote the book.
Exactly.
History is going to write about those 107 days, and I'm not going to let that piece of American history be written without my voice being present.
Are you going to run again? Because I looked at the polls. I looked at the polls, and you're leading for the Democratic side, and there isn't really a clear Democratic candidate. I interviewed Gavin Newsom as well, but when I look at the polls, you're still leading.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I don't know, honestly.
I feel like you know in your heart.
What do I know in my heart?
I feel like you know if you're going to run in your heart, or if you have a calling or a feeling to run. Is something germinating?
I'm focused on the book tour sincerely.
Yeah.
And part of how I'm feeling right now, part of the reason I didn't run for governor of California, I really don't want to be transactional right now. I don't want to be present because I'm asking for a vote.
Okay, yeah. What's the case for running again and what's the case for not running again?
I think the case for running again is if I can make a difference. Honestly, if I can make a difference. If I feel that I can offer something as president of the United States that would be not only uplifting to the American people, but would be about, getting us on a correct trajectory.
Do you know what my next question is going to be?
What?
Do you believe that you can offer something to the United States that's going to be uplifting and get us on a better trajectory?
I mean, that's why I ran the last time. So 28 is a far. It's practically tomorrow, but it's not. And we'll have to see what happens over the course of these next few months, several months.
Is there a case against running again? What would that be?
It's difficult to run for president. It takes a toll on your family. It takes a real toll on your family. Anyone running for president should really take very seriously the decision, because it is not for the faint of heart. You have to be able to take a punch and throw a punch, but you got to be able to take a punch.
A lot of punches.
Yeah. There's something that comes with success, whether you're running for president of the United States, build a successful business, have a public profile, which is among the difficult aspects of it. And there are so many positive aspects, but among the difficult aspects is putting yourself out there in a way that you invariably will be in a position, hopefully not with a lot of people, but where you will be misunderstood. That's an awful feeling.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Oh, it's an awful feeling to be misunderstood. In this environment in particular, invariably you will put yourself in a position where some people will hate you. It's awful. They don't know you, but they'll hate you. And so to do anything that is about distinguishing yourself by virtue of the thing you can offer or a differentiation from yourself and others of, in a similar category, it exposes you to a lot. And so you have to know why you're doing it. And I believe that you have to do it for something that is bigger than yourself. Not about your own power, not about your ego, not about your entitlement. It has to be because to endure this, not just the process of getting into the job, but the job itself. You got to be clear about why you're there.
On that night when the results come in and you realize that the election hasn't gone your way and that Trump is going to be elected, what would I have seen if I was a fly on the wall in the room? I
was in a state of shock.
Really? Mm. Did you think the day before that you were going to win the election?
I did.
Yeah. And so when did the proverbial penny drop?
When I got a call from my campaign manager that it looks like we need 200,000 more votes that we can't find. Meaning it's just the map, the numbers. And the thing I kept saying over and over again, I was in a state of shock. I was so inarticulate, but maybe very articulate. What I kept saying over and over again is, my God, my God, my God.
Really?
Over and over. I couldn't stop. I haven't felt that emotion, anything similar to the emotion I felt that day and for quite some time, other than the grief I felt when my mother died. I knew what was going to happen to our country. I knew the harm that was going to happen to people. And I knew it. I knew what was going to happen. You know, it's not about winning versus losing. I knew the consequence of the outcome of that election. And that pained me so.
I can still see the pain in your face.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. You look at what's happening. It's awful. Right now, the man is building a ballroom for a bunch of his rich friends while millions and millions of people are about to lose their health coverage in terms of being able to afford premiums for their health care. You look at the weaponization of the Department of Justice against political enemies, how titans of industry are so afraid that the capitulation that we're seeing across the board, whether it be universities, law firms, media companies, what's happening around gutting the Department of Education, lunch programs for low-income children, IEPs, individual education placement for special needs kids. Recently, I'm hearing the stories from mothers in particular whose children have special needs and they can't get an IEP. These are babies, the children who are most in need, their parents who are struggling. If you know a parent who has a special needs child, what that means to their life emotionally, physically, financially, and we're not even giving them assistance with their educational program for their children. Meanwhile, you're building a gilded ballroom. So the harm, it's extraordinary. All those working people, the tariffs, what this is meaning for people. He made a promise that on day one he was going to bring down prices. And prices are higher for groceries. Inflation is higher. Unemployment is higher. And by the way, Stephen, it must be said, the failure of the Democratic Party will be, going forward, to overlook the fact that it is bigger than this one guy. It is not just about this one person who occupies the Oval Office. We are witnessing what is the swift implementation, a high-velocity event that is the swift implementation of a plan that has been decades in the making. The strategy for dealing with this moment has to include having some historical perspective on how we got here. That Project 2025 didn't just fall out of the sky. The idea of going after public education, that's not new. the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation, what the gerrymandering of districts, the packing the court, this stuff. This is about an agenda that is not going to begin and end with one person, and the destruction is profound. There are, however, a small group of people who have access to the power and are close to the power who are doing quite well. The rest, you look what's going to happen in terms of working people.
Again, as an objective observer, the Democratic Party needs to take responsibility for, because the US operates as this sort of two-party system, right, where it's kind of like this person versus this person, left versus right.
Right.
The left lost. They played it wrong. From the Democrats' perspective, they're paying the price of losing the game of chess. And so I think about the Democratic Party, and they can point at the consequences of losing that game, but I feel like the Democratic Party needs to get their shit together so that they don't lose the game again.
I agree.
And that's the personal responsibility point, which is like, how do you stop yourself from finding yourself in a situation where at the last minute, Joe Biden is pulled out with 100 days to go and no one mentioned it. I mean, you say in the book that you at the time thought of it as grace. You talk about this on page 46. You say you thought it was grace to not basically mention that there was a problem, and grace not to tell Joe Biden to pull out earlier. Yeah. But actually, in hindsight, you now think it was probably reckless not to tell him to pull out.
On my part, yeah.
So what is that to you? What does the Democratic Party need to do to?
First of all, if I had done it over, again, part of the reflection. We had the infrastructure deal. We had the CHIPS Act. So we're building back up America's infrastructure. It's 150 years old. CHIPS is about manufacturing chips, U.S. manufacturing, both incredibly important. If I had to do it over again, I would have first gone with our family policy. That was about extension of the child tax credit, affordable childcare, paid family leave. We needed to deal with the immediate issues affecting the American people. In fact, that's why I ran for the 107 days on those issues, including having Medicare cover, for example, for people in the sandwich generation who are taking care of young children and older parents, Medicare cover home health care, right? Mm-hmm. Why I offered for small businesses that they would get a $50,000 tax credit because nobody can, for startup small businesses, because nobody can start up a small business on a $5,000 tax credit, right? So,
do you think the left is somewhat seen as the enemy of entrepreneurship?
I think there is that perception. I don't know if that is the case in reality, but I think we have some work to do.
Yeah,
I talk about in the book, for example, I think it was a mistake to not invite Elon Musk when we had, and I'm no fan of his, but I admire his work as an innovator, and as what he has done in terms of American manufacturing of electric vehicles. We should have had him at the White House when we had all the other American electric vehicle manufacturers, right?
I think this is part of the problem. When I read that, I was really happy to read that, because you can disagree with someone in part, but still have the nuance to be able to acknowledge this part's good. But if you just shut them out because of one thing, then you really drive division.
I mean, this gets back to my earlier point about what's the motivation for the decisions that a leader makes. And the motivation has to be what is for the greater good. And have the ability to put aside, those things that may fall in the context of being more personal. Mm-hmm. But I think we have to do a better job of also focusing on being a bit more bold. For example, I think we should reduce voting age to 16.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.